The entire Germanic history in a single video. What, this video? No, the Deutschland video. A love for the radio. And dolls. Foreigners, sex, tattoos and diamonds. Not to mention saying hello to a man. That's the literal translation anyway. Finally, Rammstein are back with a brand new album, and this is one of the few videos that's going to be looking at it that's not a lazy reaction video. Come on guys, you don't need those lazy bastards to tell you how to think. And let me get on with my review of Rammstein, and let me influence the way you think, you know. I really cannot stand reaction videos. Very quickly before I get started, if you like this video, make sure you drop a like because it helps the videos immensely. Let's try and get this video up to at least 500 likes. I've never done that before. If you dislike, go ahead, but maybe leave a comment as to why, you miserable twat. And also, why not check out my second channel, Free to Be Positive, for reasons. So, it has been 10 long years since their last album, Liebe ist für alle da. I really enjoyed that album. In fact, in my opinion, Rammstein have never made a bad album. There's always quality. This will be their 7th studio album. I'm not going to muck around too much on the intro for this one because there's a lot to get into all of the songs. So I just want to quickly read out something that I found of Richard Krusper, their guitar player. He did a recent interview with Kerrang! Magazine. We experimented a lot with certain kinds of harmony through the verses and a lot of melodic structures in the songs. I feel like we came up with great stuff that I wouldn't have dreamed before could be Rammstein. Can we expect a more laid-back, commercial Rammstein? Let's find out without further fudge. The review. First up we have Deutschland, translated as Germany, obviously. This single and the accompanying video were released about a month or so ago now, and as is the usual Rammstein way, drummed up quite a bit of controversy. Tracing the history of Germany with references to Arminius and the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest, the personification of Germania herself, the Weimar Republic, the Hindenburg disaster, the Baader-Meinhof group and the Holocaust, all connected by the Roter Faden, the red thread that connects all the events. You have to hand it to Rammstein, they don't do things by halves. I've already done a standalone video for this song, so go and check that out, but suffice to say that this is classic Rammstein and a very, very strong start to the album. Next up we have the second song on the album and the second single to be released from the album, Radio, or Radio. This one explores the band's love for music, even though it was verboten in their era. Not only that, it shows the importance of music for when the band were growing up. Of course, they grew up around the time of the Berlin Wall, when East and West were divided and certain radio transmissions were jammed and not supposed to be listened to. This was under the German Democratic Republic, or the DDR as it's called. But every once in a while they were able to pick up these forbidden signals. Music is such an important thing in all of our lives. So yeah, you can imagine under that oppressive regime, must have been doubly so. Once again, I've already done a standalone video for this single, so go and check that one out and I explore it in a bit more detail. But one thing I will add right now, this song actually took me a few goes to get into. I didn't like it on first listen. The more I listen to this song, the more I love it. I absolutely love this song now. It's awesome. And I think that's a fair representation for how I felt about the rest of the album. You've got to give these songs a chance. Next up we have Zeig Dich, or Show Yourself. This one starts out with an ominous choral chanting, in Latin I believe, the most evil of all the language. And this really conjures up that Omen vibe. Ex mostamus, crucifixus, morisuri, extraspection. Before a heavy, discordant riff joins in. Lyrically, this one clearly has religious themes, but I'm not going to pretend to know what they are. Even with the translations, Lindemann's lyrics can often be difficult to interpret, and I think this androgynous quality to his lyrics, his poetry, is one of the things that makes Rammstein so endearing. The mystery of it. Got out of not having to explain that one. Desire, curse, damn temptation. Condemnation, promise, committing them crimes. Promise, proclaim forgiveness of all sins. Distribute and multiply in the name of the Lord. Obviously he sung it in German, I'm not going to try that. The pre-chorus riff on this one harkens back to old school Rammstein, very much reminiscent of Herzeleid or Sehnsucht era, whereas the chorus itself actually reminds me very much of Zwitter from the Mutter album. Show yourself, hide not. Show yourself, we multiply the light. Show yourself, no angel in darkness. No God shows up, the sky turns red. Oliver gets a chance to shine on the bass towards the back half of the song, along with the return of that ominous choir. The song builds in dynamics and comes to an abrupt close. Heavy, creepy, awesome. Next up we have Ausländer, which is translated as foreigners. Starts out with a keyboard line, courtesy of Flake, of course. This one has a very Europop sensibility, which will no doubt be a cause of dissension to many old school listeners. And to be honest, this is probably the song on the album that I've got the most issue with myself. Not a bad song, but not one of the better ones either. I guess lyrically this one explores the idea of being in a band, travelling the world and therefore always being a foreigner. And more specifically, it looks at the importance of language and the need for communication. Other countries, other tongues, that's how I forced myself early. The misunderstanding to the annoyance that you have to learn languages. And when the sun goes down and one stands in front of foreigners, it is beneficial to you then, being able to communicate. The chorus itself has a kind of a cheeky fun vibe to it, kind of reminiscent of Pussy. I am a foreigner, mi amor, me chérie. Foreigner, ciao, ragazza. Take a chance on me. There were elements of this song that I enjoyed, but by far this is my least favourite song on the album. Next up is Sex, and in German that's sex. This one starts with an ambient keyboard intro before launching into a very blues-tinged riff that wouldn't have gone out of place on Metallica's Load era. It even had a hint of Kasabian, which I think's a good thing. Definitely a real swagger to this song. There's a very tongue-in-cheek feel to this one. Careful where you go with that, considering the subject matter. We only live once. We love life. We love love. We live during sex. The bridge section features a great keyboard solo from Flake and some really nice heavy chugging riffage. I enjoyed this one a lot. Great song. Next up we have Puppe, or Doll. A very dark and disturbing song. This one starts slowly and builds in the intensity. Very, very harsh song. If sister has to work, lock me in the room. Has given a doll to me, then I'm not alone. If sister has to work, does not drive her by train. Her creative space is not far away. It's right in the room next door. This song really builds in its intensity, and Lindemann sounds absolutely frantic as we get to some of the chorus sections, and it just builds in intensity, very unsettling. And then I tear off the doll's head. Then I tear off the doll's head. Yes, I bite off the doll's neck. I am not doing well. At first this is only backed by Schneider with some really heavy industrial style drumming, but later on the guitars start kicking in and they have this black metal style sort of tremolo picking that really adds to the darkness of the track. And the final chorus rings out. When sister is indulging in the work, the light in the window is red. I looked through the keyhole and one struck her dead. And now I tear off the doll's head. Yes, I tear off the doll's head. And then I bite the doll's neck off. I'm fine now. Yes. I think this is one of the things I love so much about Rammstein. Unlike a lot of bands who just use shock tactics for the sake of it, there's a real weight and depth to what Rammstein do. It just kind of gets under your skin, really unsettling. This one will no doubt lend itself to their theatrical live shows. I'll be interested to see what they do for that one. Enjoyable is probably not the right word for this, but this is by far the standout track on the album for me. Very disturbing, very heavy. Classic Rammstein. This is why we listen to this band. If there's one track you have to check out on this album, check this one out. Incredible. Next track is Vasek Lieber, or What I Love. This one starts out with an almost drum machine sounding drum. There are parts of the verse that remind me very much of Amor from Riser Riser, and the chorus itself reminds me very much of Susie and the Bantries cover of Dear Prudence by the Beatles. That's a lot of tags I can use in the video description. What I love, that will spoil. What I love, that will die. Oh, die. There's a great use of some really heavy power chords in the bridge section that's very pleasing to the ear for Rammstein fans, I'm sure. Also read a lot of reviews where a few people have given this song in particular a bit of a kicking, and I don't understand that at all. I think this is a really strong song, and once again one of those ones that gets better and better with every listen. Next up we have Diamant, or Diamond. This one starts out with what sounds like bass guitar on this much more stripped down affair. With most bands this would probably be a straight up love song, but as with Rammstein it feels like there's something more sinister and dark going on below the surface. Like a jewel so clear and clean, your fine light was my whole being. Wanted to hold you in my heart, but what cannot love must hate. This was yet another one that didn't do much for me on first listen, got better and better with every listen. Not one of the strongest songs on the album though. Next up we had Weit Weg, or Far Away. This one started out very synth heavy and actually reminded me of the intro to This Creature Lives by Mastodon. Some nice heavy guitars on this one and a truly infectious chorus. Very close, so far away from here. So close, far, far away from you. Very close, so far away are we. Very close, far, far away from me. Decent enough tune. Penultimate song is Tattoo, or Tattoo. Some very old school Rammstein style riffage in this one, and the vocals in particular reminded me very much of the Sehnsucht era. There's some great melody mixed in with the heaviness of this track about the joys of body art. When the blood kisses the ink, when the pain embraces the flesh, I show my skin. Pictures that are so familiar. From the needle, a blue flood. In the pores, the blood is boiling. Really enjoyed this one. And the final track is Hello Man, which is literally translated as Hello Man. This one starts out with a very ominous sounding bass line, and there's a definite sinister feel to this one. The whole song has a real feeling of darkness and menace, and there are parts of it that remind me very much of Mind Tile. As for the lyrics in this one, I'm going to let you guys make your own mind up on this. I'll be interested to hear what you guys have to say. Actually, make sure you leave a comment. In the description you'll find a link to the translated version of the lyrics from genius.com. Maybe have a look at that and get back to me, tell me what you think about it. Quite a disturbing one, this one, I think. And that is the album, the long awaited new Rammstein album. And for now I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. This is one of those ones that may well change by the end of the year. Either way, I've stated a few times now that it's definitely one of the ones that benefits from multiple listens. A few of the tracks on it did not wow me on first listen, but they really do need to breathe. You do need to give them a bit of a chance, go back to them. I think there's a lot to enjoy here. The only song that I didn't really get on board with was Ausländer. I've listened to that a number of times now, and it's not a bad song. It's just not a great Rammstein song. Maybe it would have been better on one of their solo efforts. Rammstein have never actually released a bad album, and in my opinion this album very much continues that strong quality control. There's a lot of speculation that this could actually be the band's final album. I think they've stated themselves that they may not do it too much anymore. God, why did I come up this way? If this is the final album, then the band should be proud. It's a very strong one. There's a lot of great stuff on here, a lot of stuff that will go on to be considered classic Rammstein, I'm sure. I suppose that's about all I've got to say for it, really. Strong ending as ever. I'm going to do something a bit different for my next video, and I think I'm going to take a look at the final episode of Game of Thrones, the final episode that we've all been waiting for. What's it, 9 years it's been going now? It's one of the few shows I watched from the very beginning and stuck with the entire way through, so I'm very intrigued to see how it ends. So I'm going to do a video on that. Spoiler warnings, there will be. And I guess the only other thing is, if you're new to the channel, make sure that you subscribe, make sure you like, make sure you comment. It all helps the channel grow. And maybe check out my second channel, Free to Be Positive. I'm going to be starting a couple of 30-day challenges on that channel, starting out with some fitness stuff. So maybe go and check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. Go and check that out if you want to better yourself in your 40s. Why not? God, I'm old. And on that note, I've gone on way too long.